Figure 8 knots. Figure 8 knots are great to use because they are obvious, since they look like their name, they are safe, and they are pretty hard to mess up. So they're great for beginners. Figure 8, like this, would be mainly used for a figure 8 stopper. So if you're rappelling and you tie this at the end of your rope, you rappel down, this is as far as you can go, you can't rappel off the end of your rope. If you're sailing, you tie this at the end, you can't lose your rope through a cleat, this will stop it. This is also the first part of a figure 8 follow through, which we'll get to next. So the figure 8, you can tie this a couple ways. You can wrap it once, wrap it a second time, take your running end and stick it through the loop, pull tight, looks like a figure 8, and it is. Second, we can take a bite, spin the top once, spin the top twice, take the working end, stick it through the top loop, have a figure 8. So figure 8 follow through. Figure 8 follow through would be used to tie around something, like a climbing harness or around a tree for an anchor. So we're going to give ourselves a little more to work with at the end, and then do the exact same thing we did before to first create a figure 8. Second, we're going to wrap around our object. Now there's two ways to tie this, and one is much easier or less messy because it ends up dressed the first time. The first option is to start easy and end hard, which start easy would be going through the open hole. Start hard and easy would be moving this strand aside to start in that hole. Now, after we do that, we're going to follow the strands around and lay this flat. Around the back side. And easy, we're going to go through the open hole versus pushing this strand aside. That creates a dressed knot the first time. Now we're going to set it. So pull each strand tight so that the knot doesn't change as it's weighted. Now, when you tie a figure 8 follow through, you know you have it when it looks like an 8. Everything's sitting flat, and you can count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay. You can also do a stopper knot at the end, which we'll get to later. Next will be a figure 8 on a bite. We'll get this exact same knot in a different way. Remember, the figure 8 follow through, we tie around an object. Figure 8 on a bite, you cannot tie around an object. And that is the only difference. So, figure 8 on a bite. We're going to have enough space with the bite. We're going to tie it the same way as the figure 8 stopper. So we come around once to form the top, come around again to form the bottom, go through the top with the working end, which is now a bite, and pull this tight. We're going to dress this again. So for example, right here, we see this is stacked up. We're going to spin that over. See that? So we're going to follow this through. We spin it over. We come down. Get that twist out of it, just like that. So that's a dressed figure 8 on a bite. Now, reset it. This can be used when you need a eye or loop at the end of the rope to clip something to. There is a little trick for tying this dressed the first time. And the way you do this is you make a bite and pinch one end, or the end of the bite, okay? The other end I take under my thumb and make sure this whole thing is laid nice and flat, okay? So just like this. Now I'm going to take and bend my wrist in. The back of my hand comes around this rope, and I stick it through the top here. Before I pull tight, I just take and switch these two strands there, pull tight, and now we have a dressed figure 8 on a bite. A little more advanced. Okay. Last, I'm going to show you a double loop figure 8. Double loop figure 8 is more advanced still, but very useful. I'll show you how it's tied, and then I'll show you what it's used for. So we do the same thing as we started our figure 8 and our figure 8 on a bite. So we are using the bite end to create the top, create the bottom. Now, instead of sticking the bite through that top opening, we're now sticking both of these strands, kind of a double bite through here, if you will. Okay, we're going to grab that. So that is going to come up, and this original bite is going to go around the entire knot. Okay, just like that. Now, this is a double loop figure 8. So again, this is dressed. Now, we can, again, just set this just like before. The benefit of this is that if I have an anchor that way and an anchor that way, I can connect this to both anchors as a great way to connect it all together. Very nice. And then I'm not pulling in two different directions on a carabiner. Getting more difficult or more advanced than the double loop figure 8 is a triple loop figure 8. For this, we're going to need a double bite. So here's the bite, fold that down. So now we have two strands of a bite. We're going to take these two bites together and tie a figure 8. Or we go around twice and pull up through the top. Now, this knot, you can make it look prettier, dress it the best you can, but it's very difficult to make it perfectly dressed because there are so many strands. Okay, so this is a triple loop figure 8. So there's the two on top like the double, and then you have a loop on the back side, which again you can change this size of the loop. So now with these two loops or eyes, we can set up a self-equalizing anchor system. So we can have a carabiner here, a carabiner on the other eye, and rope that goes to a carabiner, back, to a carabiner, back. So you can take 3 anchors, get them to this, and it all equalizes. And then you would tie your rope into here. Okay. I will show you this in another video to actually give you a visualization of the application of this. So this is a much more advanced knot. It's very useful in some situations, and some people just like playing around with these things, so figured I'd show you. There is also an inline figure 8. And for that, we're going to take this bite, okay, and we're going to wrap around and then come down through that hole we created. So we have our rope with a directional or inline eye here. So we might use this to, again, clip things on. You can be creative on the use of this. I think like the butterfly is generally a better knot to use in this application, but if you really are learning the figure 8 family, this may be a little easier to remember. All right, I hope you enjoyed the figure 8 family of knots video, and if you have questions on any of these knots, please feel free to comment, and I will do my best to answer them in the comments or in a future video. Thank you.